Week 5 of the fantasy baseball season. And here's a few pitchers I look to buy and trade for this week. The first guy, Charlie Morton of the Atlanta Braves. So the Braves here, the championship Braves, maybe so far this season, they have a little bit of a hangover after winning the World Series last season because a lot of guys off to a slow start in the lineup. And even the pitching staff hasn't been that great so far. So on the season here for Morton, 28 and 2/3, 2-3 record, 30 hits, 18 earned runs, 17 walks, 23 strikeouts, 5.65 ERA, and a 1.64 whip. So Morton, he was great last season for this Atlanta Brave team, but so far this year, it's been very tough for him, even though in his latest outing, he did pitch good, so maybe he'll start turning the corner. But the last few outings here for Morton, April 27th versus the Cubs, 2 1/3, 4 hits, 3 runs, 4 walks, a K in that one. May 3rd at the Mets, 5 2/3, got the loss, 6 hits, 4 runs, 3 walks, 3 Ks. And then the latest outing, May 8th versus Milwaukee, had a pretty decent game, 5 innings only though, 2 hits, no runs, 3 walks, 5 Ks. So maybe it's going to be baby steps here with Morton to get him going, because this season he's only gone 5 2/3 at most in his outings, which obviously isn't good. And this Brave team, they need their starters to go deeper into ball games. So his next outings, May 14th versus the San Diego Padres, which obviously their good lineup is San Diego. And we'll see if he could keep it going. But right now, with the struggles, even though he's coming off a good start as Morton, this is a perfect time to go out there and get him, because he's a guy arguably in the second half as well that has better numbers throughout the last few seasons. So right here, Morton, he definitely could be a nice guy at the back end of your rotation. And this would be a time to go get him while he hasn't been doing much so far this season. The next guy, Tyler Mahle of the Cincinnati Reds. So the Reds here, we know they're one of the worst teams in the league with 5-6 wins this season. Tyler Mahle last season was great, but so far this season he's been a train wreck. 30 2/3, 1-4 record, 31 hits, 22 earned runs, 17 walks, 32 strikeouts, a 6.46 ERA, and a 1.54 whip. So right here, the walks have been killer for Mahle this season. That's where he's getting in trouble. And also, he don't have an offense that really backs him over there in Cincinnati. Like I mentioned, one of the worst teams in the league. And Mahle's just not going deep into games. April 28th versus San Diego, 5 1/3, got the loss, 6 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, 5 Ks. May 3rd in Milwaukee, 3 1/3, got a loss, 4 hits, 4 runs, 3 walks, 2 Ks. And then May 8th versus the Pirates, a decent outing, 5 innings, no decision, a hit, 2 runs, 3 walks, 6 Ks. So right here, he don't have a quality start under his belt this season. But right here, this Red team already, they're free-falling. And by the MLB trade deadline or before that, we could see Tyler Mahle get traded. And if he goes to a contender, this guy could be definitely a good option. So his next outing's tomorrow, May 13th, at the Pittsburgh Pirates once again. And I think he could go out there and pitch good. The Pirates, we know, is a bad ball club as well here. But right now, he's only owned in 69% of fantasy leagues as well. Even if he's on your free agent market, I would go out there and pick him up. Why would get him in a trade where you don't got to give up anything at all? Probably a bench hitter you don't even use, or maybe a closer that's middle of the pack, because this guy's got good stuff. I know he's on a bad team, but he still could turn things around here. And like I mentioned, if he gets traded to a contender in a couple months, he could be great in the second half for fantasy owners. The next guy, Kyle Hendricks of the Chicago Cubs. So Hendricks, he's always been an innings eater and a pretty solid pitcher for the Cubs in fantasy baseball. So far this season here for Hendricks, 2-3 record, 39 innings, 36 hits, 19 runs, 13 walks, 30 Ks, 2 quality starts, 4.38 ERA and a 1.26 whip. So right here, not the greatest in numbers here for Hendricks, but his latest outing at the San Diego Padres is where he had a good ball game, but I still think Hendricks owners don't really buy into it. And right now, he's only owned in 56% of fantasy leagues. So the last few games here for Hendricks, April 29th at the Brewers, 4 1/3, got the loss, 7 hits, 6 runs, 2 walks, 2 Ks. May 4th versus the White Sox, 5 2/3, got the loss, 7 hits, 4 runs, a walk, 2 Ks. And May 9th at San Diego, he almost went the distance, 8 2/3, got the win, 3 hits, no runs, a walk, and 7 Ks. So right here, it was a good outing for him, no doubt about it. But still many owners, I don't think, believe in Hendricks as a guy who could turn things around and be good this season. Because if he didn't have that great outing versus the Padres, his ERA was over a 5.5 going into that ball game. And his next outing's another good one, May 15th at Arizona. That's one of the worst teams in the major leagues. But right now, like I mentioned, Hendricks, he's only owned in 56% of fantasy leagues. I know he's coming off a good outing, but he's still a guy I think you could get on the cheap here this week. And I would go out there and get him because he's another guy like Tyler Mahle, who I mentioned, could get traded to a contender at the trade deadline and really put up numbers and help your team in the second half. The next guy, Jose Berrios of the Toronto Blue Jays. He signed the big contract extension for 7 years in the offseason, and so far he hasn't been good at all here. Berrios, 34 innings, 2-2 record, 42 hits, 22 runs, 11 walks, 24 strikeouts, 2 quality starts, and a 5.82 ERA. So Berrios right now, he's just not getting the job done. I know it's a very tough division over there in the AL East with Boston, the New York Yankees, obviously, in the division. The Tampa Bay Rays always find a way to win ball games and play hard, and he's just off to a bad start, is Berrios, especially the last 2 outings. April 17th versus Houston, 5 2/3 in that ball game. Got the win, 7 hits, a run, 2 walks, 5 Ks. May 5th at Cleveland, he got wrecked, 4 2/3, got the loss, 8 hits, 6 runs, a walk in that one. And then May 11th yesterday at the Yankees, only 5 1/3 he went, got the loss, 5 hits, 5 runs, a walk, and 4 Ks. So right here, Berrios, I think you could get him cheap. He plays on a team with a lot of good offense behind him. And I know that ERA's ballooned up all the way to a 5.82, but he's too good of a pitcher to lose it this quick. I know the division's tough and all, but this guy's too talented. He's too good, like I mentioned, and things are going to pan out for him when it's all said and done this season. So right now, while he's struggling mightily, is Jose Berrios. I would go out there and make a deal for him because he's going to turn things around. And with that offense behind him, it wouldn't surprise me to see him win anywhere from 12 to 15 games this season. And the 5th and final pitcher I'd look to go out there and trade for and buy this week is Brandon Woodruff, the Milwaukee Brewers. So this Milwaukee Brewer pitching staff, they've been pretty decent this season here, even though Woodruff and Freddie Peralta have struggled. But Eric Lohr and Corbin Burns, the Cy Young winner from last season, are off to great starts so far in the season here for Woodruff. 28 2/3, 3-2 record, 29 hits, 19 earned runs, 10 walks, 37 strikeouts, only 1 quality start, 5.97 ERA, and a 1.36 whip. So the problem here with Woodruff has been the control issues because his strikeouts are still up there with a 37 in 28 2/3, and his pitch counts have been high, only 1 quality start on the whole season. So right now, well, he's struggling mightily with that ERA at a 6 just about here. This is a perfect time to go out there and get him because this guy, we've seen good flashes so far on and off this season, but once he gets in mid-season form, we know he's a top 10 pitcher in this league. 26th at Pittsburgh, 4 innings, no decision, 7 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, 6 Ks. May 3rd versus Cincinnati, 5 2/3, got the win, 4 hits, 3 runs, awesome 12 strikeouts. And then May 9th at Cincinnati, I think in those back-to-back meetings is what hurt him here, even though Cincinnati's a weak hitting club, 4 1/3 in that one, got the loss, 8 hits, 5 runs, 2 walks, 6 Ks. So right here, his next outing is May 15th in Miami. And Miami's been struggling lately where I think he could get right, but after getting bombed in that last game versus the worst team in the league so far at Cincinnati, this is a perfect time to go out there and make a deal for Woodruff because, like I mentioned, this guy was an early round pick this season in fantasy baseball. He's a top 10, maybe even top 5 pitcher when it's all said and done in fantasy baseball. And right now, I would go out there and get him because this Brewer team, they got a solid rotation. Woodruff's a solid pitcher the last few seasons. And they got weak opponents in that division with Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and even the Cubs don't always hit the baseball that great. So right now, it's just an early season struggle, and he's going to get it going. So I would go out there and buy him low, and you're not going to give him up much to get him. So that's a few pitchers I look to buy and trade for here for Week 5 of the fantasy baseball season.